Committee. Today is Tuesday, September 26th at 1:03 p.m. and we are in City Hall, room 1010. Thank you, Councilmember Cedillo. Okay. And we have a quorum, and I would like to call this meeting to order. And I want to remind everybody who wants to speak on any of the items or public comment to please fill out a public comment card and bring them to the front of the room, please. And I'd like to start this meeting with public comment. And we have, I believe, 3 speakers. If I could have Omar Perich, is that right? And
yes.
Is it Jack?
Zach
Strotter. Come on up. We'll give 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Good morning, Council. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to speak. My name is Omar Perich, and I have the privilege of working in the city of Los Angeles with underprivileged youth, minorities, people that are entering into a reentry type of program. And something that we focus on and that we're big on is a local hire component. And we believe that Los Angeles is able to bring in a lot of big projects, a lot of amazing things that help Angelenos. But one of the things that we're really advocating for and pushing for is that we continue to allow opportunity for these young men and these young women who come off these same streets of the city of Los Angeles, and we're able to afford them an opportunity to be contributors to the same community that they've come out of. We're grateful for the setbacks and everything that is being included in this project and what we're talking about. But we're just hoping that we continue to open the doors, and we want doors to continue to be open for people from Los Angeles to be given opportunities, to be able to improve their work ethic, and to give them an opportunity to be better for themselves and be better for their community. Thank you for your time, and I'm just grateful to be here today and just continually wanting to give back to the city of Los Angeles. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Is Omar here?
That
was you. I'm sorry. So is Jack here? Okay. And then, while we wait for Jack, see if he comes back in. Ida, do you want to speak on all your items now together?
Yes.
Come on up, Ida. Items 2, 3, and 4. I will give you 4 minutes to speak on all three of them.
May I also start and give some comments on thank you for this opportunity to discuss transportation for seniors. Transportation for seniors is vital. Without it, their life comes to a halt. And I would ask this committee to look at expanded services for seniors, because once our life and quality of life diminishes, we lose a whole lot during the process of aging. I would also like to say translation is vital in the neighborhood councils. And while I am here speaking as a private citizen, I serve on a neighborhood council, Echo Park. And our committee at some point was diminished of translation services. And it brought us that meeting to a screeching halt. And we had ad hoc translation until CD1 gave us translations, for which I really thank you. It made a vast difference. It also encouraged participation, because for 8 years, translation had fallen by the wayside. I would suggest that when you give money, you give it specifically for translation. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, left in the hands of the neighborhood council, that service will be dissipated. So, and whatever is left over in translation, that it goes towards the general services, so that neighborhood councils realize the mandate is translation. And even if you reach one person, you never know, as I learned, they are speakers for many more people. And at some point, they bring those people in when they see we are serious. Mm-hmm. I also look at community interest stakeholders. This must be a genuine commitment, mm-hmm. because otherwise ad hoc floating people do not answer that mm-hmm. Call of duty. I really thank you. I have a lot more to say, but I thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ida, and thank you for your service. And your comments are well taken. Seeing that, we are closing public comment. Seeing no other public. Oh, is that Jack? Zach. Zach, come on in. Give him 2 minutes.
Excellent. So I spoke during general comments, and I want to thank the City Council and its representatives here for insisting on a study to address the issues related to neighborhood oil drilling. I also want to let you know that we're grateful. I'm grateful personally as a representative for those that would be affected by the 2,500 setback, for that the council has the foresight to study the economic effects and how it affects people. I think it's important in a general sense to understand that oil is still an integral part of our economic community. And while it represents so much concern for the environment, we also need to look at the people factor. I think that it's not in our best interest to immediately assume that there isn't an environmental management system, that protocol that we can take on within oil. The jobs that are represented there, the families that are represented there, those people are our constituency as well. Angelenos are affected. This 2,500 setback, though it may just seem like a small, trivial bit of bureaucracy, actually does affect quite a few number of people, the jobs at multiple tiers. And so as we continue to move Angelenos into the future, we have to show them that we're willing to do so with the understanding and the sensitivity that's needed. We are affecting people's lives. We are affecting their livelihoods. And I think that there is amiable negotiation that can take place as long as we continue to move forward with that sensitivity and that understanding. So again, I just want to thank the council for their time today and for the opportunity to speak before you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jack, right? Zach. Oh, Zach. Thank you. So public comment is now closed. And I'd like to move to item number 1 on the agenda, which is a standard Department of Aging transmittal. And I propose that we move the CEO's recommendation on consent. But Mr. CLA, can you read it for the record?
Yes. Item number 1, City Administrative Officer report relative to the proposed 2017-18 Senior Family Caregiver Service contracts.
Thank you. And with no public comment, I'd like to move it on consent. Councilman Cedillo?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you. Item number 2, which is a budget recommendation for fiscal year 17-18 budget process regarding translation services and neighborhood councils. Mr. CLA, if you could read that
Yes.
in.
A budget motion relative to the instructions for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment with assistance from the City Administrative Officer to report on the cost to provide translation services to neighborhood councils that require them and the feasibility of the use of neighborhood empowerment funds as a funding source.
Thank you. And this is a simple issue of equity. And I know, as attested by Ida, Councilmember Gil Cedillo is very passionate about this issue. But before I turn it over to him, I just want to quickly say that, as it should be, neighborhood councils are legally required to provide translation services if requested. But those services are paid by the neighborhood council budget, which therefore reduces the amount of money available for the neighborhood council to use on other diverse neighborhood projects. And as we all know, it's a small amount of money that each neighborhood council has. So in effect, neighborhood councils that are in diverse neighborhoods that do require translation services are being penalized. This should be a basic service provided by the city, and I am in full support of this budget motion in front of us today, which this motion instructs the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment and CAO to determine a method of translation service cost to be borne by the city. For example, having some sort of a neighborhood empowerment fund or using the neighborhood empowerment fund. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Councilman Gil Cedillo, who is a strong proponent of this issue, before we move the item.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. It's a real simple question of access. Without language translation, people can't participate. And so whether they can get to a meeting or not, once they're there, if they don't know what's being said or discussed, then they can't participate. They are taxpayers, like all the other residents of Los Angeles, and they are citizens of the city of Los Angeles, and many of them, in many instances, are citizens of this country, and so they have a right to participate. And these meetings, these neighborhood councils, are ways for us to promote civic engagement. This benefits the city. We can promote civic engagement, we can promote voter participation, we can promote all these activities if people are engaged and participating. More now than ever, given the state of where our nation is, we need people to participate at the local level in every way possible, and without translation, that becomes more difficult. And so I support the motion and applaud the author and ask that we move aggressively forward on ensuring translation at all neighborhood councils where it's needed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cedillo, and very well said. And, for those who need translation services, sometimes it could eat up to half of their budget, which reduces the neighborhood council's ability to do other things. But seeing that there's no other public comment on this issue, I'd like to move to continue this item for 30 days for Dunn and the CAO to report back to us. Is that okay with?
Yep.
Thank you. So moved. Now, item number 3. Mr. CLA, if you could read that into the record.
Yes, item number 3, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment Report relative to a status update on improving the neighborhood council elections voting environment.
Thank you, Mr. CLA. And Mr. Cedillo, this item continues our reform efforts in the preparation for the next neighborhood council election. And now that the city clerk, who's joined us today, handles the neighborhood council elections, this item before us today authorizes the city clerk to take over the management of the regional grievance panel for election matters. I am very supportive of this very logical shift. However, now that the grievance process has been in place for some time now, I'd like to see more of a formal report back from Dunn and the city attorney with the assistance from both the city clerk and the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners on the effectiveness and administration. In particular, I'd like to instruct that those departments come back in 60 days to this committee with a report outlining, so I'm going to add a couple of amendments to the instruction, to provide a legal framework of these quasi-judicial panels, the process conducted by the department to review grievances that are filed to determine if a panel should be established, a review of how many panels have been conducted, an outline of how many grievances have been sustained and rejected, how many of those that were sustained were later rejected by the department, and how many that were sustained by the department, what actions were taken. So I just wanted to get a robust report. Mr. Cedillo, do you have any comments, questions?
No.
Well, since
Consistent.
Yeah. Since we have the city clerk here, today I don't have my tea. You're good? Great. Seeing there's no other public comments, I'd like to move up item number 3 with these additional report back instructions. So moved, so thank you. And item number 4, wow, we are super efficient today. Anybody else want to speak on anything?
Careful what you're
I know. We're almost at the end, and we have real neighborhood council members here. So, item number 4, Mr. CLA.
Yes. Item number 4, City Clerk and City Attorney Report and Ordinance relative to amending Section 22.805 of the Los Angeles Administrative Code relating to the Board of Neighborhood Commission's authority to define community interest stakeholders.
Thank you, and I just want to quickly explain this item. This item continues again in our series of reforms to prepare for the next neighborhood council election. In 2015, the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners requested the authority to better define what sustainable, what substantial and ongoing participation for community interest stakeholders actually meant. That request was approved previously by the department and the Budget and Finance Committee. Now that the ordinance itself is before us today to adopt that authority. The definitions will be recommended by Bonk and subject to the council and mayor's approval. I've reviewed this item and I'm ready to approve it, and I know Councilman Steele has no problems with it either. So I'd like to move this forward on consent.
Yes.
Thank you. Seeing that we fulfilled all public comment cards, the one day the council president's not here, he would have loved this meeting. So this meeting is adjourned, and thank you so much for coming to this meeting today.